The cold winter storm had been billowing for a week. The forest shook and bent, snow filling up any space it could find. The deadly wind howled, trees snapping as the dreary storm raged on. In the midst of this forest was a cabin, a sanctuary in the bitter environment. A family of 4 resided there, a mother, a father, and 2 children, 1 boy and 1 girl. They had been there since the beginning of the storm, believing they could stay it out. The weather was too dangerous to drive in. The family kept themselves entertained within the small confines of their snowed-in prison. They had plenty of books to read, toys for the children, even a few board games. The first few days had been all right. The family was content. It was just another winter storm, nothing new in Canada. They were sure they could wait it out. When the 4th day, perhaps it was the 5th, day hit, the family was getting desperate. They began to tire of each other's company, the confines driving them mad. The food and firewood supply was beginning to be a problem. They had enough food to last them another day or 2, maybe 3 if they rationed it, but it was getting cold in the house. The family spent their time huddled in blankets, a futile attempt to stave off the cold. The storm showed no signs of stopping. When a week had hit, the father decided he had to try his best to do something about the 2 impending threats closing in. The cold was getting to his daughter, the youngest of the family. Her fingertips were turning blue, her small body constantly huddled and shaking. It broke his heart. His son was just as frozen. He tried his best to hide it while offering his blankets to his younger sister. His wife stayed close to the children constantly, and she wished he wouldn't go out in the storm. "It can't last much longer," she rambled, her form huddled, body trembling, hungry. "A storm can't last forever. We have enough food for another day. The storm will end tomorrow. Tomorrow, I'm sure. I'll wait until tomorrow then. Even if the storm is still raging, maybe I can find some nearby firewood. I'll bring a rifle. If I'm lucky, maybe I'll catch a deer." When what he guessed to be evening fell, his wife and children huddled up in front of the hearth. He grabbed a gun, some rope, a lantern, and made his way out of the house. The snow was piled up too high to leave through any place on the first floor, so making his way up to the second floor, he tied the rope to a bedpost and climbed down through a window. With the rifle slung on his back, the wild winds ripped at his skin, the noise deafening, sharp needles piercing his every movement. Beneath all of his winter gear, his body started to fail on him, as if the world were out to get him. He knew what he needed to grab, just some firewood. Food was low, but he was sure it could last just a little bit longer. He trudged through the knee-deep snow toward where he kept the store of wood, his body freezing up as he went along, the burning ice attacking his eyes. He waddled, reaching the shed. The wood was frozen solid. He pulled on it. It wouldn't move an inch. A quick glance around revealed the axe, half covered by snow, and a smaller wood stack nearby, but hopefully he could use it. He set down the lantern next to the pile, a small orange glow in the deadly white of the storm. Some sharp tugs sent the axe flying out of the smaller wood stack, and he began to strike at it. The blows dully echoed through the storm, a noise that couldn't be heard by anyone but him. The wind deafened him. All he could hear were the dull thumps of the axe on the frozen wood. His mind didn't render the stealthy footsteps approaching behind him. A large creature, deer-like but monstrous, approached him. The creature's lean and sunken body moved with an impossible lightness, its protruding snout with great teeth releasing gentle breaths into the chilling air. Its claws were poised. It was only a few steps behind the father, an easy target, an easy bait. He struck at the man, its claws digging into his heart. The man screamed, an empty, soundless scream lost within the storm. The man felt the claws dig into him. A sharp and icy pain enveloped him. It felt like he was freezing. His body burned. The hot blood trickled down his coat. His heart began to stop and began to turn into ice. He felt his veins freeze. all sensations of life draining from his insides while his nerves struck him with waves of pain. He felt his bones begin to elongate, to snap and crack into new forms and shapes. His teeth became sharper, his body lean and broken, hunched and burning with starvation. The wind no longer affected the man, his eyes now set in a freezing blue stare. He was no longer a father, just a creature of the bitter ice. The creature of ice made his way back to the cabin, his body violently shuddering. His thin stomach revealed his protruding ribs. He was hungry, and he knew where to get a meal. Climbing back up the rope the man had set, axe in hand, gun forgotten on his back, he climbed back into the room. Snow had polluted the floor. It would have been cold to the man, but to the beast it felt like home. With gentle steps the icy creature made his way towards the food storage in the house. Only some bread and packaged meat remained. The creature took his hands, devouring all he could, his jaw unhinging while he devoured the bread. He was starving, his hunger was insatiable. The meat he tore into like a wild animal. The plastic surrounding the processed food ripped off with his shining teeth, silent, savage bites in the darkness of the cabin. His body was still demanding food when he smelt them, living blood. The horrid beast crept his way toward the fireplace, and stashing himself behind a nearby door called out to the wife. "Dearest, I brought in some firewood. Could you come help me bring it down?" The voice was gentle. It flowed like honey, slow and careful. The wife was roused by the words, shuffling out of the blankets as the children shivered at the loss of heat. Her body moved slowly, staggering from her sleepy state. "Follow me upstairs, love," the creature coaxed. "It could be a few armloads. I'm sure the children will be fine for a few moments. The fire will keep them happy." A sleepy mumble was all that resounded from her. She followed the man-shaped beast up to the snowy room, the storm having filled it up more. "It must be under the snow now. Help me look, darling." The beast smiled. The two of them began to look through the snow, the monster stepping back, his stomach growled. The woman was small, but it was living, it was a meal. He put a gentle hand on her shoulder. She looked back at him and saw his eyes. His icy, gentle, mocking eyes, these were not the eyes of her husband. She tried to flee back towards the children, but her feet were frozen in place. The snow had turned to ice. The creature dug its claws into her shoulder. A shriek emitted from her, cut short by the axe in his other hand. He devoured her, axe abandoned, ripping her chest open, blood pouring onto his cold figure like a river. He ripped her organs out with his snarling lips, snout extending from his gaunt face. His tall figure towered over the bed and seemed to grow with each bite. He consumed her flesh, her skin, her bones. Awful crunches ran throughout the room. The smell of blood filled the air. It tasted like iron. The creature was still hungry. It must eat. It needed to eat. The monster stepped down the stairs, growing in speed with each step. It hastened to get in its final fresh meal. The children still lay shaking in front of the dying fire. They never even knew what had come over them. The beast ripped the skin off the boy in hearty chunks, first an arm. Shrill cries ran throughout the house. Nobody could hear them anyways. The cold was the only company around, and he wasn't any more forgiving. A leg, the boy sobbed. The creature grinned, blood staining the wooden floors. The little girl had run off. He would find her later. The blood from his chest flowed like the women had, faster and faster the more he tore. The monster, finished with the boy, turned to find the girl. She couldn't have gone far, she hadn't. The girl had hidden under the kitchen table's cloth. He found her and ripped her out from under it. Her quivering screams would have pierced the ears of any human. He clawed at her slowly, drawing blood out of the sobbing child. The noises were annoying, attacking her throat first. That silenced her permanently. The blood gushed from her neck, spilling the burning liquid over the table. 3 days later, a formal investigation had occurred at the house. The violent storm had come to a sudden stop. The neighbors could give no witness to the 3 blood patches, or the missing family. No evidence of a struggle remained anywhere. A group of crows watched as the locals joked it was a monster, the old Wendigo that hadn't been seen for years. A great, deerish, beastly creature. But that was surely just a folk legend, right?